World. Hi, friends. Hi to you and your fur babies. And I hope you're having an amazing and wonderful day. It doesn't matter if you're watching this or maybe you're listening as a podcast. So I know that all of us, we are really, truly very passionate about making sure that our fur babies are living well. And we as fur parents do our best. But a lot of times we kind of need to remember that living well, it's also through what our fur babies eat, the quality of the food. And our special guest today, it's very dear to me. Actually, we were introduced at Global Pet Expo. And I fell in love with their brand, with their story. And when I asked, are you going to come to Pet Pigs community and share with us more about your brand, about the impact in a global level you are doing? And she said, yes, Vasi, I'm coming. So I'm very excited to welcome our very special guest. She lives in a different continent, which I love it. It's my continent. And so how are you doing, Zoe? How is everything with you? I'm excited to have you today in the show.
I'm excited to be on there, Vasi. And given I've only just come back from California, I feel like I'm back in America, which is amazing because it's such a cool country.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I never thought in a million years I will be living in the US, but yes, it is a beautiful country. And I think that people do need your delicious and food for fur babies, because when my boy was eating it, he absolutely loved it. But can you tell us a little more about you and your story, and tell us more?
Yeah, with great pleasure. So I guess our story began nearly 20 years ago, when my husband and I were having, admittedly, it was quite a large affair in our wedding in Salzburg, and we embarked on our honeymoon. And who knew that we were going to find an emaciated street dog south of Naples on the steps of La Conca del Sogno. And he had us, especially me, at hello. And we did this insane thing. And we canceled the rest of our honeymoon to rescue the dog. He was at least 5. He became known as the Rockster because my nickname for Sven is Monster. And we were with Rocky Augusta that day. So I guess we really embarked on our family life with the Rockster, and he became absolutely the beating heart of our family, and who knew it was really us, the ones that needed rescuing. And there is nothing that we wouldn't have done for the Rockster. And he wouldn't eat pet food. He just wouldn't touch it. He'd rather go through a dustbin. He'd rather run off, and we'd invariably find him on our search parties. He'd be in a restaurant begging for food. He just would not eat it. And he was so fastidious that he would, even if you had chicken, rice, and peas in a bowl, he would leave every pea. He would eat the chicken, he'd eat the rice, he would not eat peas. So at one point, my husband met an expert in Germany, and he told us a little bit about what really went on in the pet food industry. And that actually, as a street dog who was at least 5 when we found him, he has a heightened sense of what he can and what he can't eat. You'll never see a street dog eating chocolate from the pavement. They understand, and their sense of self-preservation gives them a heightened natural instinct in many ways. And so there's that day when you think, oh my God, what have we been trying to force feed him? And as an aside, my godfather, Sir John Vane, had won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. Although it was for aspirin, he was one of the world's most respected scientists who, in the early days, even in the 70s and in the 80s, took a very controversial view on allergies. And he said I'll never forget, he used to go, there is no lion born alive allergic to giraffe or wildebeest or wild animals. And there is no lion that dies ever allergic to giraffe or wildebeest. And it's the same for us. And he tracked from the invention of antibiotics, literally.
Wow.
And in the industry, they talk about CDs and NCDs, that commutable diseases go down for sure, TB and various, and now they're going back up again because we're getting at microbial antibiotic resistance. But if you look at non-commutable diseases, I can't give you an allergy. I can't give you diabetes. I can't give you cancer. You essentially, those are all conditions of the immune system. And the thing about antibiotics is that they kill all bacteria, and our gut microbiome requires good bacteria and a balance. So his view that these NCDs and explosion in them was somehow linked to the systemic use of an overuse of antibiotics. And in Europe, there is a class of food, which is also kind of an ecosystem too, which is known as bio, and it's much more stringent than just organic. And we don't even have it in the UK. Certainly you don't have it in America, where there is a zero tolerance for any kind of antibiotic use, even down to the also way in which the animals are raised, way in what can ever go onto the soil, because of course, if you have totally overused antibiotics into the system, that just becomes then the ecosystem around the soil. So we thought, okay, what if we took cost off the table? Why don't we try and make a food for the Rockster that is just for the Rockster? And it really was just for him at the beginning, whereby he'd love to eat it. Dustbins will be left alone. Hopefully won't get, that fateful day he'll get run over trying to find a restaurant, so he avoids pet food. And also the other thing is I'm the world's worst cook, so recipes were like a no-no. Could we create a food that would just rock his world? And you never know, maybe he might live a little bit longer, who knows? But at least he'll enjoy food for the rest of whatever time he has. Anyway, he went on to be one of the oldest dogs alive in Europe. He was at least 21 when he did die, and that was through essentially an accident. But he was nothing wrong with him. And he became a daddy at the age of at least 18. And so why? So what we then did with the food was we created a food that was just designed for Rockster and for no expense spared rather than an industry, and it wasn't supposed to be commercial. But we took very specific parts of bio animals, and we used like genuinely the muscle meat. We used genuinely certain inner organs that were designed for health reasons to be used like in the old ancestral diet. And then we put these bioorganic superfoods with them, which, sea buckthorn berries. I mean, foods that would never normally be used in a pet food, that were super high in antioxidants and other natural nutrients. And like one bioorganic blueberry is worth of the oracle, the antioxidant value of around 20 inorganic blueberries, just as an idea. And then we add something amazing, which is called fermented Jerusalem artichoke concentrate, again bio. And that acts as a natural prebiotic to help repopulate the gut, and also aid in boosting slightly the nutrient absorption. So, I mean, it was really only when we had quite a lot of it at the beginning. So we were giving it away to friends, dogs were going completely nuts. And the reason for that is also the way we cook it. So I was really shocked in America to find out that people believe sous vide cooking is just gently cooked. Sous vide actually means under vacuum. So it means you're cooking unprocessed raw food without access to oxygen. And that has three medical, scientific functions to it. One, which is you prevent any oxidation, which even if you keep raw and you freeze it, you have that. Secondly, you have no leaching of the fat or the water-soluble vitamins and nutrients. And thirdly, and the reason why the chefs in France originally did it was because it's a really powerful, natural flavor enhancer. So who knew that actually the Rockster would choose his Rockster food versus actually a piece of raw meat? And it's transformed lives. It became I think we are the only bioorganic food for dogs in Europe that's also certified by a very senior person in Germany as a superfood in its own right because of its mechanism of action. And it's amazing to hear the reception of it in America, and just now 2 weeks in California, and you know, I guess it's creating a new league of quality that has never really existed, because you wouldn't have the ingredients in America. And it might look, so we don't package it in plastic, and we don't package it in Tetra Pak, mainly because that would be terrible for the food as a contaminant, and is also terrible for the environment. So we use our own very, very special tin, which is chemical free, obviously BPA free, has no paper label. There is no one in the world that does it like that we do it. And I think that was really important to Sven, that it looks different, because whilst on the surface it might look like a tin can, actually it's not a canned food. And what I also found in California, and there were only 2 quite smart hotels that I really stayed in, and both of them, the water was in tin. It was in metal. It was no glass, no plastic. It was like, big up the metal. Wow. So I think the world is cottoning onto the fact that really tin is an amazing way, or aluminium is an amazing way that's fully recyclable. It's non-toxic. And yeah, so I mean, you've seen one, Darcy, but yeah. And that's the other thing, that to go back to America, and you know, in Europe, for us, it's normal that you would have a degree of transparency. And in America, you're not allowed to put, so there were lots of challenges trying to get, when we got approached, could we bring it into the States? And one of the challenges was because we are 100% transparent. And that was really important to us when Sven and I took the decision that we would actually make it available for other dogs too. So that you would actually know exactly what you were feeding, and that exactly which part of the animal, and not chopped up, you know, remains, and also 100% of the ingredients. And so we found the way to do it in America, even though it's technically illegal to put the percentages on the ingredient deck, which I think is kind of bad, really. But so we have found a way to do that in America, which is cool.
It is absolutely. And what I really honestly like about everything what you do, it's like you're so in a wonderful way detail oriented. It's really, really exciting. And because when we met, you gave me a couple of examples, and I was very impressed. My boy, I mean, he destroyed that food. He really liked it. The packages were very, like, really great. And even thinking on, you know, the packaging and coming up with something kind of newer, and just thinking about the environment, thinking about using very organic food, particular parts. And again, as we know, I'm a photographer, don't know all the details, but I really, like, I love your story and everything else, what, you know, you do. And
Thank you.
For Rockster to live over 2021, and I can say, I can confess, as a photographer, so far, the oldest pet I photographed in my career was 19. And let's face it, I mean, he was a little bigger doggy. And so typically, those doggies kind of, unfortunately, live a little shorter. So this is pretty magnificent what, you know, you have done. And I was like, look at, you know, you can see the size. And I think it was here, I think it was under, you know, Rockster story, a comparison, like here with, you know, you can see.
So that's Rockster Junior and Heartster when they were little.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the picture above is how the original food arrived for Rockster. And that's how much, that's our entrance hall in London.
Wow.
We had quite a lot of it.
Yeah, I can see that. He was a happy boy.
So we were like giving it to friends, and then people were like saying, oh my God, what have you done to my dog? My dog has gone nuts for this food. And then actually it was really one of those cats, funnily enough, that there was a friend of a friend of a friend whose dog was dying, who had acute kidney failure. and wasn't eating and had an underlying autoimmune condition. And they just wanted to get the dog to eat, and the Royal Veterinary College said they wouldn't, you know, the dog had to be put down if it wouldn't eat. So they said, oh, can you get is there any way some of Rockster's special food can get to this dog? And we were like, sure, no problem. So someone came to collect it from the house and sent it to the dog. Was called King, and the King immediately ate it and went on a diet solely of Rockster after that and transformed. It was amazing. It was really, really, and it was actually that story that made it available. We said, okay, we have to bring this to a wider audience. And then that was in 2016.
Incredible.
And then by 2018, some Americans flew over to Europe and came to see us and said, nothing like this. It's in America. This is insane. Please, can we bring it into the States? And then started the amazing discussions of how to bring bioorganic, healthy food for dogs into America. Would have been easier to get a nuclear weapon in, but we made it in the end. Took 4 years. So, but it's there, which is so exciting. And I've been really kind of almost overwhelmed and humbled by so many people that I've met in the States, and especially now in California, where there was one lady who's been in the pet industry and a family-owned store, and I think they've had it for 20 or 25 years, and she just cried and hugged me, and she said, I've been waiting to meet you. Or like, oh my God, this is, I've been waiting all my life to be able to sell a product like this and to give it to my customers' dogs. And then there's another lady who is just amazing, and she founded actually a shop called The Raw Connection, and was part of, in the US, the whole movement to raw. And she gave it to her dog, and she was just like, I'm moving my dog onto Rockster now. And her dog is 15, and she wants to, I guess it's really humbling. And I think because it is cooked from raw, it's genuinely sous vide, which is actually a very technical way of doing it. And it's without the antibiotics. It's so clean. And if you think of all the allergies, and it's shocking to find out how many dogs in America have allergies. And there was one thing my godfather just stuck in my brain, is he didn't think there was any such thing as a natural allergy. He believed, and it's just as no lion is born allergic to wildebeest, there is no dog alive that's born allergic to chicken or beef or eggs. You have to think what went into those chicken and beef. And it's really scary how much, antibiotics and use of antibiotics to kind of prophylactically prevent an animal or poultry dying before they're culled. And because they're living in such inhumane, unhealthy conditions, and they're artificially essentially fed, from things to make them fatter, including antibiotics have been used for that, and also to prevent disease in an otherwise environment where they would die very quickly from disease. That's the problem, right? That is a problem. And that was my godfather's theories, and that was even in the 1970s, 1980s. So he was one of the first people who talked about the microbial and the autoimmune conditions, and that allergies, we were giving ourselves allergies by what we were exposing our bodies to. And that was when the story of the lion always makes me, it's true. Name me one lion that develops an allergy.
Yeah,
at least in the wild. So, and it's the same with dogs. And we've just seen miracle stories. So some people call it a miracle food. Some people call it more than just food. But what it really is the cleanest, healthiest, highest. I mean, we're probably between 100 to 200 times the natural antioxidant levels of any other pet food in the world. We're certainly the only genuinely antibiotic-free certified in Germany, and they're really, you can't bend the rules in Germany. that we're the only one in the whole of the United States of America, which is kind of amazing.
It is really amazing, for sure. And, you know, I'm very impressed. I mean, I have to say, I was like very impressed when I met you in person, when I saw the result of my boy eating the food. He couldn't stop eating it. And I think that as we, as I would say, humanity are trying to live better, a lot of times we need to go back to the essentials in life, and a lot of them, you know, food, like there is one a store chain in Bulgaria for many, many years. And it was, the idea was that food is energy. So for us to continue living, we need food. Well, the quality of the food now more than ever, we need to try to look at the labels. And, you know, friends, before we press record or before we press live, you know, you and I, we had a great conversation talking about the labels, that there are people like myself, and I have to be very honest, for me, it's difficult. Like, I'm not really good in labels. So every time I'm like, okay, I will trust the professionals to lead me. But that's one thing I really respect about your company. As you said, transparency, and just people, you know, I would encourage, if there is one thing, friends, I want to encourage you after you listen this as a podcast or watch it, is just really sometimes to kind of slow down and revisit the food of your pet. You know, how long your pet has been eating this food, and maybe there will be some better options. Because even if we used to feed our doggy, who unfortunately it's not with us anymore, we fed him amazing food. Well, now, since we have Jagger in our house, I said to my husband, it's time to give him even better superfood. And that was after, of course, I met you in person. And I think that, you know, just that's what I would encourage you, friends, you know, take a look.
Even just to incorporate it somehow. I mean, I was really emotional yesterday because I heard from a lady who is this amazing, amazing dog and loves her dogs. And actually, fundamentally, she has a dog allergy. And since she and also the dogs had insensitivities or allergies to certain things. And since they went on Rockster, not only has dogs' allergies seem to have completely gone away, but her reaction to the dogs is different. Yes, which I think is really, really, really interesting. And I have to say, I've never heard a story like that before. But it's fascinating because I think that is the one thing with Rockster is I could almost, you know, we've seen dogs and countless dogs who vet has said, or whatever nutritionist, or has someone said, it's allergic to beef, or it's allergic to chicken, or it's allergic to whatever. And the reality is with Rockster, months on Rockster, and then, you know, introducing that protein, they're absolutely fine. So that I think that there is, you know, for sure some truth into, my godfather, he changed the world in so many ways. If you have a heart attack, you take an aspirin every day because of him. You know, we have non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs partly because of him. We have, you know, he discovered the ACE2. So he was a visionary in so many ways. And I hope that he and the Rockster are up in heaven together going, yes.
They are, believe me, they are.
Changing the world one dog at a time.
Yeah, it's amazing. I would salute you. Congratulations, you know, and what an honor to have you on the podcast and really learn more about your mission, your story, Rockster, who will be remembered forever and change so many fur babies.
I hope so. Oh, yeah. Stop crying. No, and I think that, you know, if there's a way to incorporate Rockster into your dog's diet somehow, either as a topper or as a treat or in a variety, but if in the long term the industry in general moves towards transparency, and if we all have a right to know exactly what we're feeding ourselves or feeding our children and what we're feeding our pets. So, and if, you know, over time the systemic use of antibiotics in agriculture, we are facing a world where that needs to change now. It really has to. before we get, resistance, for example, even in humans. And change is sometimes a good thing.
Oh, for sure, it is a good thing. I absolutely agree with you. And I would say, even if we are like in the middle of the year already, but I always think that just being open to a change, it's a big decision. And I would encourage everyone, because in the exciting side of it, you never know what's coming next. And
Yeah.
I that's, one of the things I really love it. And I like the angles of what your brand does. I like, I'm very inspired by the incredible stories. I think that the fact that pet's personality in a very positive way can change you better food. I think this is very important, especially in nowadays society. And let's face it, with every passing day, our fur babies are aging, even no one wants to talk about it, right? So they are changing personality, and their food needs are changing as well. And sometimes we just need to kind of step back for a second and say, okay, so let's say my boy is 15 years old. What we are doing, introduce a little bit something new, if it's really with good benefits. And our humans, we take vitamins, right? Well, what do we do for our fur babies? And that I will leave it to people to decide for themselves, and definitely encourage them to check out, and where people can find you on social media.
So we are on Instagram at the.rockster, and on Facebook, I think it's Rockster Dog Food or the Rockster. It's Rockster Dog Food is the actual handle. We are obviously, our website is www.therockster.com. And we also have an amazing, so depending wherever you live in America, there's a website called baxtaboo.com, which is able to send to anywhere in the United States. It's going into some very cool stores in California. We've made it, and also on the East Coast and across now the US. We've made, because we're a family owned business, it's, you're looking at half the company and Sven being the other half. And I mean, we also really wanted to support those family run independent businesses rather than huge business, because they care, right? And they needed something that would maybe help people go back to their local and independent pet store that really genuinely values something that's different, and that is a very high quality, and it's not just about the big business behind, that it's the right values. So we're really trying to support and be in those independent pet stores.
I love it. I love it. This is such a beautiful, way, the way, you operate, your values. And I also would encourage friends, if you have a pet store, definitely make sure that, you can connect with Zoe. Again, all the information it's also below in the description. It doesn't matter if you're watching this or you are listening this as a podcast. And just, I would encourage everyone to share, because if we can try, and if we help one for baby, and I would say from my humble experience, so many times people will come to me as a photographer, not as a Vasi Pet Pics, but as Vasi, the photographer, and their fur baby will be older, and they will have problems with feeding their fur babies. And then you go to the store, you buy all the food in the world, and your pet has few bites and then doesn't eat it. So with all the ingredients and everything else, what you have in all of your, I would say the super pet food, in all of your brand Rockster, I think that definitely, this can help your fur baby. So thank you very much for being with us today on the show. It has been
thank you for having me. I want to come back again.
And you will.
I want to hear, if there were stories, and yeah, it's so cool.
It is very cool. So friends, this is the challenge in a great way. This is what I will encourage you today. Say hi, check out the brand. If you decide to check it out, please share with us, in a wonderful way, the way your fur baby is transforming. And it's very exciting. And as I like to say, the way we try to take care of our fur babies, the way we need to take care of for us as well. And the fact that that it's such a brand with such an incredible organic ingredients, being transparent. I think it's very beneficial. So let's just give it a try and just be open-minded. So thank you so much for coming today on the show. And I
Thank
know
you, Lassie. This is Rockster behind me. There you go. I have him behind my desk.
he's so
There he is.
very handsome. And
My
you know
baby.
what? His legacy. He continued changing lives. And I would say lives because they are the fur babies' lives, but also their parents. Because if you know that your fur baby, it's doing good, then you can feel good and you can, be productive, live good life. So let's help others to live better. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to our next episode for sure together. Thank you.
Definitely. I can't wait. Bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much for listening, everyone, and for having me, Vassie.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you, friends.
Bye.